The ports on these cylinders have not been modified at all. This will be some pretty serious R&D for me because I've never done port work on these things or any cylinders. This document came from Ed Erlenbach Racing, his website, and it specifies some dimensional data that I can understand. It only covers intake porting though. This document I got from my friend Paul. Thank you, Paul. It's a port map for RZ350 cylinders. It is interesting that these intake ports right here, the dimensions that he has is within 1 millimeter of the Erlenbach one, which is good to see. There's some consistency there. But some of these other dimensions, like the exhaust, looks like does not get modified per this document. These transfer ports, it looks like I'm going to raise maybe 1 millimeter. Very little. I don't know if it's even worth going in there and doing. On the cylinder side, the intake ports should end up something like what you see outlined by the green there. And then again, the transfers, I don't know if I'm going to go in there. I bought a tool that will hopefully get in there, but I don't know if it's worth raising those things 1 millimeter. I'm not going to video the whole layout process that I did to do this, but what I did was I stuck a ring in there and then I used a piston to get that thing set to a certain depth based on taking a measurement like so from the top side or bottom side as required. Some other bits of information I have that may or may not help me along are my own parts that I've taken photographs of, but I've never taken any dimensional information off of them. These are the cylinders that are currently on my yellow Thrasher bike, which has about 1,500 miles or less since it was rebuilt. But I remember when I took this thing apart, I thought the base of these cylinders were broken. But it appears somebody spent a bit of time doing some grinding in that area, because that looks a little different than this. I don't know how much work I'm going to do in that transfer area, but anyway, this is the intake ports on those Vito's cylinders on my yellow Thrasher bike. These are the intake ports on the last engine I rebuilt, which has 84 miles on it now. It looks like somebody barely touched it in this area. Very little work was done. The yellow bike cylinders have also had the exhaust port opened up about 4 millimeters. That's what they measure now. Here's a stock set. Here's my arrangement of porting tools. I bought these off of Amazon to go onto this thing, which I think I can get into the intake ports with. The smaller version of the cutters will go on this tool, which does fit in there. Not real well, but it fits. We'll see how it works. That's that. That came off of Amazon. It was about $90. And then I bought this big old fat kit of 500 something pieces of sanding drum things off of Amazon. I'll put links for all of these items down in the description. I'm pretty sure porting these cylinders is going to be a little bit more challenging than case matching the cases to the cylinder bases. I got these things, or one of them, tooled up. I think I'm going to start with this biggest cutting tool that I have. I have a feeling I'll end up with this one. Here we go. Cutting. I've adjusted my tooling a little bit so I can see inside the cylinder while I'm going in from the intake port side. I'm making progress. The one on the right is mine. This is a damaged cylinder that's been ported like that, but I have it sitting here just for reference, sort of. I think I may stop here and make the other one look like this. And after that I'll do a little touch up on both of them. I haven't quite gotten to my green marks in there, but I don't know that I necessarily need to get all the way to my green marks in there. About 1 millimeter off. Getting started on cylinder number 2. I'm going to keep using this same cutter for now. I think when I get into the touch-up phase, I wonder if these are chipping or if that's aluminum in there. When I get to the touch-up phase, I'll change cutters. Changed to this cutting bit. I think I'm going to just tighten the radius up a little bit on each of these. Probably should just leave it alone, but I'll give it a shot. I think I'm going to leave it as is and go to the 90-degree tool now. I'm going to go in to cut the transfers now with this 90-degree tool. I have never turned it on yet. Hope it works. That's it for that one. Not much. Like I mentioned, I don't know if it's really worth doing this. I would say that probably wasn't worth doing. All I really did was put a little bevel or chamfer on those ports. I'm stopping this process before I do further damage. Lastly, I'm going to touch up these a little bit. Should I make them look like this one? See how well that one did? That's a keeper, huh? That's a winner. A race winner. I remember reading thousands of times, don't knife edge. I don't know if these are not supposed to be knife edged or these are not supposed to be knife edged. I won't knife edge these transfers. I'm just going to knock them down a little bit on the sides using this cutting tool. I'm done with this for now. I must say this little tool did pretty good. That was a fun day. I did some intake porting. I did some transfer touch-up here and a little bit of cutting on the transfer ports and the cylinders. Gave up because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I don't want to damage this stuff. One thing I'm really curious about is when you open up these intakes, is there supposed to be something comparable happening on the other end, on the exhaust side? My yellow bike has this exhaust port opened up. I'll ask Brian when I take the cylinders to him. I'm back. I didn't like the inconsistency on my port job here, intake port job, so I made a little piece of hardboard here so I could draw a line down in here. I can take a tool like this, and I found like this is the tallest one. This one I'm going to cut a little bit more out. These two need quite a bit cut out to equal my biggest cutout here. I also drew a center line on these. I'm going to come in and bevel these just a little bit more. I've got these things a whole lot more consistent now, and I'm putting a bevel on them here. They're all about that much of an opening. I still have to bevel this one. I feel much better about this. I was losing sleep over it before. I think I'm done with the intake porting for real this time. I hope so. It looks much, much better to me. My very unprofessional opinion. Next up, I'm polishing the exhaust ports. I'm going to use this tool. I want to use one or two of my 541 piece sanding drum kit. I'm going to experiment here a little bit. I did a little bit on the other one. Working pretty good. I'm going to change that drum or that sandpaper there and then go to something a little less gritty. This is 400 grit. And 600 grit. I hit those things with some old 2000 grit I had lying around. Now we have some white Jeweler's Rouge, and then I'll hit it with the red stuff after this. This time I think I'm done. I can pack these things up and get them to the cylinder boring guy. There's the result of the polish on the exhaust ports. Far from perfect, but they're exhaust ports, you know. There you have it, my first RZ350 porting job. I'm really glad I went back at these today. I feel a whole lot better about these things. They sure look better. They're more uniform. Hopefully they will perform well. These things are ready to go to Brian to get bored out, third over. I'm hoping he'll give me some more porting tips. I'm sure he will. My assessment of these tools that I purchased, these things did exactly what I needed them to do, and I think they're ready for more. I don't know that I would use them for heavy metal cutting. This little 90-degree die grinder worked quite well. This thing that I already had worked very well. Pretty satisfied with how everything worked. Remember, I have links for all of these things down in the description of this video.